All right, so we're going to start with number 8 on the first page. So this is just classwork. You guys still have the web assigned to do for homework. So let's take a look at number 8. We want to write the quadratic function in vertex form, and then we want to find the domain, range, vertex, axis of symmetry, max and min, x-intercept, and y-intercept. So when it's given to us in standard form like this, we want to use our little vertex form formula. Anybody remember what the formula is? Negative b over 2a, where the number in front of the x squared is our a, the number in front of the x is b, and then the constant is our c. So here we have negative 16 over 2 times, what's our a? 1. So negative 16 over 2, which would be negative 8. So in our vertex, the first number is going to be negative 8. So that little formula, negative b over 2a, helps us find the first number in our vertex, or x in our vertex. Next, let's find our y. To find the y, we want to plug in x and solve. So this is for our vertex. So we're going to plug in negative 8 into our x's in our equation here. So we have negative 8 squared plus 16 times negative 8 plus 58. So negative 8 squared would be 64, plus 16 times negative 8 would be minus 128, plus 58. 64 minus 128 would be negative 64. Negative 64 plus 58 is negative 6. Yeah. So our y in our vertex would be negative 6. So if we were to graph this, we're going to go to the left to negative 8 and down 6. And then does our parabola open up or open down? What do we think? It opens up. Why? Because a is positive. Our leading coefficient is positive, so that tells us it's going to open up. So somebody did watch the video. Good job, guys. So let's find our domain. What would our domain of our parabola be? What is our domain always going to be? It is always all real numbers. So from negative infinity to positive infinity. Domain is always all real numbers. Either way is fine. If you wanted to write the symbol for all real numbers, it's like this. Either way, as long as you know that it's all real numbers. The range, we go from smallest y values to largest y values. So if we look at our graph, what's our smallest y value that our graph has? Negative 6. So we have a bracket, negative 6, and it goes to what? Infinity. Awesome. You're not going to have open circles here, so it'll always be a bracket. So because our graph touches negative 6, it's a bracket. There's no open circle. What would our axis of symmetry be? Awesome. It is always x equals, and it's whatever our x is in our vertex, so negative 8. Some people in the last class, they were working on, or not the last class, but yesterday, they were working on the web assign, and it kept marking their axis of symmetry wrong. it's because they forgot the x equals. So don't forget the x equals. Your axis of symmetry is a line, so you need the x equals there. And then our point, our vertex, is that at the highest point or the lowest point? It's the lowest point of our graph, so is it a max or min? It would be a minimum. So we have a minimum value, which is just our y value. So our minimum would be -6. So it's the same as the y from the vertex. Max and min is always the y from the vertex. Yes? No. Does WebAssign make you put y equals?
I'm just saying because you said with the x.
Max and min is just a number. Axis of symmetry's x equals is because it's a line. And then just for the sake of time, you guys can skip the x-intercept and y-intercept. I want to focus on everything else here. So skip these, but in the future, we'll kind of talk about them tomorrow. For x-intercept, you want to plug in 0 to the y. For y-intercept, you plug in 0 to the x. So it's the opposite one that you're looking for. You plug 0 into that. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Last thing I want to do, which is what the question asks, is to write the quadratic function in vertex form. So our vertex form of our quadratic function, our general formula is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So our vertex is our h and k. So we're going to plug those in. So we have x, how do we say x minus -8? X plus 8 squared minus 6. Now what's our a?
1.
Awesome. A would be 1. A comes from the a in our standard form up here, so a would just be 1. We don't write 1 in front of it. It's just a leading coefficient of 1, so you don't even need the 1 there. If it was any other number, put the number there. But here, since it's just 1, you don't need to write it. So this would be our vertex form. So vertex form, you're just going to write the vertex as your h and k. And you find a from your formula and plug that in. All right, we're going to do one more from the other page. So you guys are just doing the highlighted ones. So first thing it asks for is for vertex form. We need to find the vertex first. What's the formula we use to find the vertex? It's a little tiny formula. What do we use to find the vertex? -b over 2a. So the number in front of our x is our a. The number in front of the x squared is our a. The number in front of the x is b. And then the constant is c. So we have -4 over 2 times 1. So -4 over 2, which simplifies to -2. So the first number in our vertex is -2. How do we find the second number? Plug it in. So we're going to plug in -2 and solve for y. So we have -2 squared plus 4 times -2 plus 8. So this would be 4 minus 8 plus 8, which would just be 4. So our vertex is what? -2 comma 4. When we write it in vertex form, we have y equals, what's our a?
1.
Awesome. A is 1 here. So 1, we don't write the 1 when a is 1 because it'd be like 1x. It's implied that it's 1. So 1 times x minus h. So we have x, what would come next? Plus 2 squared. What would come next? Plus 4. Awesome. If you guys have time, I would say practice finding the x-intercept and y-intercept. I have a feeling that the rest of the questions might take the whole class. So don't worry about it. We'll practice it tomorrow. But if you have time, I would say try to help you graph it. Does our graph here open up or open down? It opens up. So we would put our vertex at -2, 4, and we know that our graph opens up. So is our vertex at the maximum or the minimum? Vertex would be at the minimum. Our minimum value is always the y from the vertex, so our minimum would be 4. It doesn't ask for it, but minimum would be 4. What's our axis of symmetry? X equals -2. So don't forget the x equals. What's our domain? All real numbers, or from -infinity to +infinity. Perfect. And then what would our range here be? Awesome. Bracket 4 to infinity. Let's do number 4 on page 3. So it says write the equation for the quadratic form with the given vertex that passes through the given point. So our vertex is h and k. So we're going to plug that into our general formula here as h and k. So we have y equals a times x minus h, so x plus 6, because we changed the sign of the h, squared, plus 8. Now it gives us another point. So do we have anything else we could plug into our formula here? X and y, awesome. Our point is our x and y. So we're going to plug in 10 into the y and -4 into the x. Now here we just have one variable, a, left to find. We're going to solve for a. What should we do first to solve for a?
Subtract 8.
We could do that. Subtract 8, move it to the other side. So we have 2 equals a. What can we do next?
The parentheses.
Inside the parentheses, what's -4 plus 6? 2. And then 2 squared would be 4. So if 2 is equal to 4 times a, what would we do next?
Divide.
Divide by 4. So a is equal to what?
1/2.
1/2. Awesome. So now in our formula, we plug in the h and k and the a. So we have y equals, what's our a? 1/2, we just found that, times x minus h, so x plus 6, you always change the sign of the h, squared, plus 8. So this would be our vertex form formula, our equation of the quadratic. Don't forget, if you guys watched the video, you heard me say 10 times, don't forget the squared. That's the most common mistake that people make with finding the quadratic form here. They forget the squared. So you did all the hard work and missed out on a couple points because you forgot the squared. So just don't forget it. All right, 9 isn't highlighted, but let's take a look at 9. It says find the coordinates of the vertex for the parabola defined by the given quadratic function. So looking at 9, what is our vertex? Three comma 1. Awesome. It's what we're adding on the inside and what we're adding on the outside, but you always change the sign of the h. So these questions are easy. When it's in vertex form, you can clearly identify your vertex. What would our axis of symmetry be, just for fun? What is it? Just 3? X equals 3. Awesome. It's always the x from your vertex, but don't forget the x equals. And then for 11, we're writing, you want to find the vertex. So you got to use your vertex form formula, which is -b over 2a to find your x. How do we find the y in our vertex, or the k? plug in x. Plug in x, solve for y.